Hi everyone, welcome to Ishi TV. I am your host Palak and I am super excited to have Bella on the show today. Bella is the first woman of Indian descent to row across the Pacific Ocean. Thank you, Bella, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Palak. Very nice to be here.
So we start with the first question. What kind of drew you to ocean rowing? And was there a defining moment when you told yourself, I'm going to row across the ocean? How did it work?
Yeah, it wasn't one. It wasn't something that came overnight. That's for sure. Well, I rowed. I started rowing about 8 years ago on the river. I live in the Netherlands. I was born in the UK. My parents come from Africa, and my great grandparents from India. And sport has always been a love for me. So I've been doing sports from my youth all the time, and I've just encountered rowing about 8 years ago. It was so fascinating. I loved it. I just missed the challenge. So in my life, I always look for challenges. I've been to Nepal, walked a mountain range there, but I kind of missed that kind of challenge. And then when I heard about four women having rowed an ocean, I thought, wow. And they were kind of middle aged. I thought, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. Looking for waves gives that little bit of extra excitement and like something you think is impossible. Why not? I mean, life is too short. So I started to investigate about ocean rowing. I came across a club that does that locally. And then a friend of mine also read about these four women who rowed an ocean. And she said, oh, I want to start a team. I said, I was also looking to start a team. So we got together, two other ladies. And in 2020, we rowed the Atlantic. And it was so inspiring and it was so beautiful and so much gratitude to be able to do it that I decided to do the Pacific as well. So I'm just back from rowing the Pacific 4 weeks ago.
Wow, that's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Um,
So if it's in your mind, just kind of manifest it and make it happen. And that's what we did. Yeah.
wow, super inspiring. And this also brings me to this question of being a woman of Indian descent. What does it mean to you personally, and what, the cultural connotation of it? Like, how do you see it?
Yeah, it's amazing because I'm so thankful for where I am now. If I look at my grandmother, who got married at 12 in those days, didn't have a choice. My mother also. Um, Things have changed in the past. I mean, it was so restrictive, and I feel that there's so much more available to choose what we want to do, and it's a matter of going for it. And I feel so grateful that I'm in the position to choose. And that makes me more empowered, actually, to be able to make such a choice and quite a radical choice. Also, having a choice that you have to leave your kids behind and go for something that you want. And there's something that you want to give back also to your family to inspire them to make it possible for them to also to do their thing, whatever it is in life. It can be so small. It doesn't have to be as big as what I've done, but just to give them the empowerment as well. Yeah, so I'm blessed that I can do this. And I think if you feel that you are in a position to do it, not everybody is. And that's the thing. It's about finding your path, whatever it is. And it's about finding your path. What is it you want to do and going for it and having the choice to do it. And I think that's so, yeah, liberating.
Wow. So it must have also been a very emotionally, challenging ride. We will come back to the family bit a little bit more, of course. But also for you personally, how was it like? Because from start to finish, what was that emotional roller coaster that you went through?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? So, firstly, it's about what is it? It's so obscure, you can't train for it. And I didn't know how I would be able to react with high waves. Being in a small cabin, you're in a boat of 8 meters by 1.5. It's very small. I didn't know how I'd react to being on water for 5, 6, 7 weeks. I had no idea. And the only thing was that it's just an imagination that you will be able to get through it. But the only way to find out is to do it. So for me, it's to dare yourself to do something out of the unknown and to explore what it is. What is fear? Because fear is sometimes just here in your head. but you think you might be afraid, you think you might not like being on the water. You don't know until you do it. So by actually doing it, I actually realized it's a lot in your head, and that you can actually overcome whatever it is that's in your head. That could be a bottleneck or a barrier, but just by going for it, you actually start growing. And because of that, I learned a lot, that I was actually very comfortable on the water. I was extremely comfortable. I didn't have any big emotion or big fear. The only time was the first time we came across the biggest waves of about 4 or 5 meters high. It was a foam wall that just went over us, over the boat, and we tilted 90 degrees, pushed off the seat, close to the water, but then the boat turns back again. But then when you realize that the boat is actually made to be on the water, and you have every faith of being in that boat, then everything was fine. So from that moment on, it was fine. And we had problems. We had problems with our auto steering. We had problems, that was on the Atlantic. And this time around, we also had a problem with our auto steering at one stage. But you know that you have to go on regardless. So even we had to hand steer on our first trip, it didn't matter, because we knew we had to get to the other side. No matter what issue you faced, you knew that you were on a journey to complete. So we went through a lot of issues, and it was a roller coaster of emotions. But also in the last one, it was also a roller coaster of emotions. But because I'd done it once before, it was a lot easier, and I was enjoying it even more, because you're riding on these waves and you know that the boat can take it. So it was actually, yeah, it was exciting and exhilarating actually at times. But yeah, you are at the hands of nature. So whatever comes your way, you have to accept it. So if you get heavy winds, heavy waves, you know that you are just an element of nature. You are so small on the ocean, and you accept what comes your way, and that is, yeah, yeah. There's kind of a gratitude and a gracefulness about that as well, because here on land we're so distracted with all the things around us, and there it's just pure nature, and that's it, nothing else. Yeah.
Let's just talk about then what were the more, like, you know, the fascinating moments that you went through on the ocean, because you are in the water, the sky above, there are stars at night probably. What were the wow moments that you when you think back, and you know, or
Yeah, amazing. Like I said, sometimes you had setbacks, but the moments that the wow factors came in, everything was better. Everything was good. So it's the smallest things that you can think of. So if you're on the water for 40 to 50 days, it's like every little change in the sky, in the clouds, is magnified. Every little change on the water is magnified. So everything that we have here, we're distracted with, but everything there on the ocean is so pure. You're so much in the moment at that moment. It is so enriching. And also the stars at night, it was like you could see the Milky Way, you could even see the universe and beyond. It's like I have never seen anything so clear in my life. In fact, the difference between the Pacific and the Atlantic was quite big, because the Pacific was even more beautiful, the sky. And I saw star constellations I've never seen before. It was amazing. But that's, yeah, and then also the sunsets and the sunrises. I realized that that's the most powerful moment of the day, because it's changed from night to light and light to night. And that's the biggest change that you get every day. And that's kind of stayed with me. So if ever I'm here on land, it's like I want to go for a walk, sunrise, sunset. That's, to me, the most powerful moment of the day. So I think the sun and the moon and the stars were just magical. On the Pacific, we had bad weather, or for the first half of the journey was all cloudy, so we didn't have all that magic. So it's not always magic. So don't think that it's always magic. When it does come, it is very special. But also the nature was amazing. On our first trip, we saw, I think, 3 times a whale. And on our last trip, we saw a whale on our first day, which was absolutely amazing, because the first day we had a lot of big waves, a lot of clouds, and it was very misty. But when we saw the whale, it made everything better. It was like amazing. And a few days later, we saw dolphins. We saw a stampede of dolphins. So if you can imagine like one or two jumping behind each other, but there were hundreds jumping after each other, like hundreds in about 60, 70 kilometers an hour. We were rowing and we thought we heard a plane, a firefighter plane. We turned around, it's like, wow, this is a very rare phenomenon. And I was just like, wow, I mean, to witness this was amazing. And we didn't get that in our first journey, but we had many dolphins as well. This time around, we saw squid. They were jumping out of the boat, out of the water into our boat. It was amazing. We even had sushi, so that was very special to experience. So yeah, I mean, the nature was at its best, but I mean, it was not always like that. We had tough moments, absolutely, very tough moments. But it's the nature that kept us going. It was kind of a motivating factor on its own. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. Like it just like I could visualize almost all of it while you were talking about it, and to
Yeah.
experience
So
it
you
would
can
be
come next time.
yeah, yeah. Well, a long journey to that. Uh, yeah, but you spoke about so many like these wonderful moments, and then there are these tough parts wherein you're talking about like like you have to go through this journey. So what did the ocean you think taught you and your team about fear and faith? Because I think both of it was going hand in hand at most of the points. Yeah.
The most important lesson it's taught me is only control the things that you can control. We can't control everything in life, although we might want to. And if you adapt your mind to allowing to be controlled through nature, then it's a matter of navigating through it. So that's kind of my motto. It's like, yeah, navigate through what nature brings you. It's also that time is not, it's bigger than we think. Because there was no time. There was time in the sense that we rode 2 hours on and 2 hours off. And that way you realize that you're just focused on that moment. That moment. That's the only thing that's important right now. Not 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. You don't know what the weather's going to be. It doesn't make any difference. You can start thinking, you can plan a little bit ahead. You need to plan your route for sure. But what's really important is being in the here and now. So the ocean has also taught us with time that you have to be in the here and now. It doesn't matter, what will happen over 3, 4, 5 days, but it's the here and now that's really important. And that's what you've got to cope with. So yeah, it's taught us a lot. In terms of faith, well, in terms of faith, I think that's very individual. I mean, I have faith. I'm not really religious in this. I'm religious for sure, in the extent that I believe there's a God, in which form. Yeah, it's a form that resonates with me, and that's nature. And the energies of life and power of life, I think that's the biggest energy that we can think of. And that's taught me faith as well. So I think that's something that is very individual. But also faith in the boat, faith in having had done it before. The boat was built to take on these big waves. So I had faith in the boat. I had faith in the team. So for me, faith is something that is intangible. You need to feel it, and you need to feel the trust. If you don't have trust, then I would have not stepped in the boat. I think that's where it starts. You have to start with trust. Trust that it will be okay, and let it go, and be open to take the challenges. So if you have that mindset, then it really helps to take on more than what you can. Yeah.
Wow. And this does bring me to the next question that I had about training your mind. So one is like, you train for physical strength. And the second is how do you kind of train your mind? Because when I was watching your TED talk and you mentioned that it was the talk you had done was a few years ago, and you mentioned about this hallucinations that you experienced. If you could talk about that and how do you kind of retrain your brain, reorient and focus on the goal?
Yeah, that's interesting as one as well, because that's something you can't train for. So to hallucinate is due to the fact that you sleep very little. So we rode 2 hours, we rested 2 hours, rode 2 hours, rested 2 hours, non-stop. So in the night hours, you only sleep 1.5 hours in the 2 hour shift. You do that 3 times, you sleep maybe 4.5 hours. That means over time, your body and your mind starts playing tricks on you, and you start seeing things and hallucinating. In our first trip, a crewmate saw a traffic light and stopped at a red, which was kind of strange. Seeing cows grazing, that's something you can't train for. The only thing that you need to do is to be alert and to make sure that everybody's well-being is being not to a state that it's getting too serious, psychotic or anything, but we give each other rest and time to be able to overcome that if needed. But it's part of the deal. But what happens is that your body gets used to it. So with the lack of sleep, maybe the first or second or third night you might hallucinate. The fourth night, then it starts to get better and better. So in terms of hallucinate, that's fine. It's just something that you go through, and then once your body starts learning about it, then it starts to go. But in terms of mental coaching, they say this trip is 80% mental, 20% physical. So yes, we trained. We had a physical program. We were in the gym, rowing. So we made a lot of rowing hours. But mental, that's as important, and if not even more important. So we also had a mental coach. So if you think about the team dynamics as well, so how do you cope on such a small boat? And what if you're irritated, or what if you have an issue or communication? How do you go about it? So we have to learn each other's personalities. And then we know how to communicate with that person. We know what to expect from that person. So that becomes easier to get on with each other in such a small boat. But also how to motivate yourself, how to motivate each other. What do you need to be motivated? Do you need words of encouragement, or do you need time for yourself if things don't go right? So everybody's different, but if we don't talk about it beforehand, then we don't know. So we had a lot of sessions how it works for each of us individually, how we can help each other, help ourselves, and to have also a check-in from time to time. Because if we don't have a check-in in terms of how we feel mentally, physically, then we are pushing things under the carpet, and that's not good. So it's really a matter of being very open and transparent on a boat. So mentally was a big part of the training. Absolutely, the dynamics that's really important as well.
Wow. And just to continue that train of thought, how does this training of communication, because in relationships as well, like we are like at professional, whether it is work relationship, workplace, or at home, we are constantly negotiating our space, constantly trying to communicate, trying to understand, hold space for other people, find space for ourselves. So how do you think this training or this intense process that you went through, how does it translate to your everyday life, or real life, if I may say so? Here.
I think, yeah, most important is to be true to yourself, and but also what I've learned, especially in this last trip, is speak it as it is. So don't keep it to yourself. That's going to cause more pain. Obviously, they say that if people have issues with other people, there's usually an issue with two people. So it's also the person that's receiving and giving. So you also have to look at yourself. So if I am irritated by this person, what does it mean about myself? Or if I'm not irritated, I gave a lot of space. My kind of nature is that you give a lot of space and you take a lot. You're very harmonious, and it doesn't matter if some things don't go right, because it doesn't matter. It's not worth the hassle to get into a discussion. But you also need to have a balance, because you also have a limit, in the sense that if you push everything under the carpet, then it's also not good. So it's finding the right balance. But if you have a way of communicating in a way that's right for the other person, that's the kind of communication you need. You need to communicate in their language. That works the best. So say it as it is. Give each other space, listen, and empower as well. I think that's important as well. Don't think that everybody has the answer, but if we together put all our energies and all our solutions together, we're much, much stronger. So it's not about being an individual. It's also being really about getting the best out of a team. We did a kind of an analysis of our different colors. I'm not sure if that's getting into too much, but each one has a different color or a different type of personality. But if you do such tests, then you know a little bit more about the individual, and you can then engage with them in the way that they like to be engaged with. And if not, then it's just about asking, what's your handbook? How do I treat you? It's also just having these open conversations, and knowing how best to handle each other. I think that's the best way. And
Oh, wonderful. And also, should we talk a little bit about how do you like, you can, so you can train yourself, motivate yourself to like, that you're thinking about your goal and finish line. And how does that work in the team setting, and how do you constantly be on the same page with the team? Of course, clear communication, etc., that we have spoken about, but motivation, like how do you get the, motivation going also the levels same across the team?
so motivation is also again very personal. So I'm was very highly motivated being on the sea, and that gave me, the nature itself gave me a lot of energy and motivation, even though things weren't going well. And then another individual, maybe a little bit older and less fit, needed a bit more motivation, maybe also needed more space to recover. So we as a team agreed that this person would need more space to have a day's rest, so we would take over the shift. So we have to look at everybody's capacity, and everybody's motivation level, where they all sit. So if there is anything that we see, we discuss it as a team, and we say, okay, maybe it's easier if then you will take the rest, and that will help also motivate the person, because once he's rested, he gets more energy, and he gets more motivated, and then the team can perform. So it's giving each other space in what they need to be able to come to the same level. And obviously, we're trying to motivate each other continuously. So music was a big motivator. So you're rowing, and it can be quite boring. So we had music as a big motivator. Or there was a moment where we would just listen to a podcast together, and that's something we do communally. But those kind of things, music was a big motivator. Listening to each other to understand what was needed at the time as a team, because the focus was clear. We had a goal to go from A to B, from California to Hawaii, and in our previous trip from Canary Island to the Caribbean. So you have a clear goal from A to B, and you have to keep focused. It's no point thinking about, also on the home front, there's things going on, but you have to be focused what's going on in the boat at that time. How is it with each of us individually, and giving each other space to recover or get each other on the same level, on the same page. Yeah, and those are the things that we also do during our check-in. So in our first trip, we had a check-in. So we check in, are we all okay? Are we all aligned? And let's move forward. If there's anything, then we could sort things out, give each other a bit more space, what's needed to get to the next level. And motivation at night as well. I was playing games with my team in the last two trips, and that's really interesting because you keep each other awake, you keep each other motivated. So it's also having the communication and making sure that there's a good vibrancy. Obviously, it's not always the case. There's sometimes a discussion, but if things are not navigating in the right way, but then you realign, you get everybody on the same page, and you go forward. And that's the main thing. You take one step back to go two steps forward. Yeah.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. So I think you also mentioned a little bit about like, at the back of the mind, maybe you're thinking about the family and like, what, like, and it's like a different life that you're living. So how was it like being away from the family, and how do you kind of cope up with it? Because it was almost 39 days, this time. So how does that work?
So yeah, it was very an important part of my decision making. So when I decided to go on the first trip, I said I'd only go if my family say yes. So if I have the support. So obviously you want to do things for yourself, but obviously you also want to make sure that the family front are okay with it. So that was a very important point to start off with. And my family are important to me, because if there's no happiness there, then why do I jeopardize that? So we were on one wavelength. I left on my first trip. and this second trip, but we made agreements that I would call once a week, and that way we were in touch, and that was very appreciated because they could also follow my journey personally. So that was very special. So that missing part was less because we made an agreement that we would have contact only once a week, but that one contact was very short, so 5-10 minutes in between your rest, and then you have to sleep or do other things. But you're constantly focused on the mission, so you're always rowing, and you get very much in your own bubble in that sense. So you have your moments when you think about family, and then once you have a check-in and you're all okay, then you can focus again on the rowing. So it was just a nice moment in the week that you'd break, you'd look forward to. It's also a motivation again, if you think, and it was a motivation just to hear everything was okay, hear voices, and then move on. So that kept us going. I also had an MP3 player with a few notes and a few audio, we call memos from people, which kept also me going, which was really nice. But the focus is a lot on the rowing, absolutely. Yeah, if your focus is at home, then that's not good either. So it has to be in the boat. So you have your moment for family, and then you accept, and then you move on. But yeah, it was good to hear the voices and then move on. Absolutely. So yeah, she missed it. In fact, the last half an hour when I was coming onto land in my last journey, in the last trip, I missed my grandson the most. It was amazing. I had such a kind of big power that I was like longing to see him the most because he would change the most. He's now, he was then 10 months, he's now 11 months. And that kind of gave me a little bit of a boost because and in the way that inspires me because he's changing all the time and I like change. Yeah, and it was, yeah, I kind of missed him the most at that moment. Looking forward to seeing everybody else, but when you're coming on land, it's like, who do you really want to see the most? It's like the one that's changing the most, the ones that's the most dearest to you, most fragile, actually, in that sense, yeah. And also my mum, yeah.
So what do you hope that your children and grandchildren take away from your journey?
Yeah, I hope they take some of the inspiration or the message that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. That they go and follow their dreams. It can be sport. It doesn't have to be a big thing, and absolutely, it is about everyone can row an ocean. I say this because it's an analogy for your dream. So your ocean might be just a small thing. It could be climbing in the mountains. It could be doing a new sport. Everyone's got an ocean they row. It could be with a relationship, an issue, whatever. Everyone's facing big waves. Everyone's facing headwinds. Everyone's facing something that's not going right. And it's a journey to get to the other side. And at the end of the day, no matter how much pain, how much you go through, you will get to the other side. And it's having faith in making sure you get there. I mean, not everything goes to plan in life, but if you have the faith, that's where it starts. And I hope that I can give this to my kids, that they go for their own mission in life. Small, big, doesn't really matter. And the next generations thereafter. Yeah, if I look at my grandson, yeah, I hope one day that that he will do something that I would think, wow, he's still small. Even when him walking, it's like a big wow for me. It's his own ocean. That's amazing. Yeah.
That's a wonderful message to kind of give across. And I think I just have my last question for you now. This particular crossing was for Water Sustainability and Aqua Awareness Initiative. And if you want to like talk a little bit about that for the people who are watching this video, it would be great.
Okay, so Aqua Awareness is our hashtag. It's our campaign for which we rode. It's for water awareness because our water supply is getting scarce. Through climate change, we know that's already happening. It's now the consequences of climate change, and that is our glaciers are melting, our oceans are changing. You see the weather, the rain or the droughts. So we want to create education packages. In fact, we're working on that right now. So we created content from our rowing expedition. When we rowed, we only used 6 liters or 8 liters of water per person per day, and that's very little. But we were in our own little, what you call our own little bubble. If you look at your own bubble where you live or where you work, it's about thinking about how much you're consuming and thinking about how can I reuse some of this water, or how can I go about making sure that the supplies will be enough for everybody. Also giving it to the next generations, to educations, to schools, that we will need to start working on the whole water infrastructure. It's not there forever. I mean, we can open the tap and it's there, but it's not something that we can take. It's not something we can take for granted, because it's not there forever. And even in the Western world, we're having a luxury. We have water in some countries. There's shortages, but even in the most affluent places, that's going to change as well. So we need to start thinking about water supply, water distribution, re-empowering people to reuse water in a way that's much more sustainable for everybody, wherever you are in the world. Yeah. And that's what we're doing. We're creating education packages as we speak. And we use now, I think in Netherlands already 140 liters, and that's quite a lot. You can not flush once or twice, or you can take a bucket under your shower, or just use minimal water instead of maximal water.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that we all need to start thinking and working towards. And your journey is an inspiration in that sense, and the motivation behind it, the larger picture that you're looking at, it's wonderful. And I'm so grateful that I got to know so much about it, and so will the viewers. Thank you so much, Bella, for taking out time for this interview, and we've really enjoyed knowing about your journey and your larger vision in life.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and yeah, hopefully we'll do more with water, and more with going for our dreams in life.
Yeah, thank you so much.